I want you to get off YouTube right now and find a private teacher. I'm serious. Let me go into a little bit of details to see if I can convince you to stop watching this video. Yes, I know, against my own self-interest, and find yourself an in-person teacher. Let me bring up a few reasons why that might be a good idea. But first, let me go over some things that YouTube may be good at. Let's imagine that you already have some expertise and you just want to learn a particular song. Amazing. YouTube's awesome at that. Let's say there's a specific technique that you struggle with. Amazing. YouTube's awesome at that. Let's say that you just need to get started in some way. Again, amazing. YouTube's awesome at that. But here's what YouTube is not very good at. And this, to be honest, is what all technology is not very good at because it lacks intuition and discernment. And that is, how do I know what I don't know? And the truth is, you don't. So how can you cross that hurdle? Well, that's where an in-person teacher, an in-person mentor, if you want a less loaded word than teacher, can really be of assistance. Because here's the deal. When you're learning an instrument, there are so many hurdles that do not present themselves in a straightforward way. You'll be thinking, oh, the reason why I can't play fast is because my technique is bad. And it actually turns out to be a mental block. Or you're like, you know what? I'm just not good enough. I'm not talented enough. And then you realize that you're literally just using the wrong fingering, and that's why a passage doesn't work. You don't know what you don't know. Let's just sort of think through how learning takes place for a second, and then bring it back to music. So let's imagine that you're trying to learn something. There's known knowns. Again, to use an old saying, there's known knowns, there's known unknowns, and then there's the unknown unknowns. So a known known may be something like, okay, I know I should get better at scales, and I know what scales are. I know how scales are formed. I just need to practice them. Then a known unknown may be something like, I know that improv technique involves learning pentatonic scales and learning about key centering, but I've never actually learned about those. Or I know that people can learn songs by ear, and so I just need to look up what ear training looks like. An unknown unknown would be something that you have no idea about. So for example, one unknown unknown is the fact that actually for a lot of people, the way that you actually learn how to play fast is to play and make a lot of mistakes, but mimic that speed capability. A lot of people think the way you play fast is you just start slow and you just incrementally turn up the metronome. That can work, but you will hit a speed limit, a speed bump at some point. That is an example of an unknown unknown. Another one is the idea that even though the piano is such a visual instrument, you close your eyes and practice that way. Another one is singing. Singing can be hugely beneficial to playing the piano. Also, there's so many performance practice things when it comes to classical music and genre-specific music. I cannot tell you how many things I have learned that are not in any books. I'm serious. Not in any books about classical, gospel, jazz, rock, pop, you name it. It's purely passed down generation to generation from one teacher to the next, because that just tends to be the most convenient way about it. If you knew exactly what to search, you probably could find it on YouTube. But do you know what to search? Let's say you're looking at ornaments. You see a trill, but then you see a trill with a little line through it. Yes, the cool thing is that ChatGPT and some of the newer internet things are starting to bridge this gap. But even a few years ago, if you did not know that that was a mordant, there would be no real way to determine what concept you're actually trying to address. What other benefits are there to having a real life in-person teacher? Well, there's actually quite a few, but I'm just going to name a couple more and then let you get on your way with this, again, urgent request to try to find a teacher. Let me bring up two more. Another one is to have a mentor/cheerleader. The truth is, if you're doing something and you're self-motivated, that is huge. That's really important. But the self-motivation is only going to take you so far, especially if you're at the beginning of it. There's going to be days where it's hard, and there's also going to be days where no matter what you do, you don't produce enough results for you yourself to feel good about it. And also you're measuring with a wonky ruler. Imagine that you had a crooked ruler to measure distance, and that ruler actually was bendy and changed shape every day. That's really what it's like to measure your own progress, because every time you get better, guess what? Mentally you bank that progress, and then you measure your current state against that new ruler that has been distorted. And so you never really know where you're at without that outside confirmation. So that's one huge one, that motivation, that pushing forward. On the flip side, you may be complacent with yourself and not know what you're truly capable of. And a teacher can really push you and go, you know what? I think you can do more. I think you can really push yourself. And you'll never know where that limit is unless you have someone outside of yourself really pushing. And a YouTube video never is going to do that. It really is never going to do that. Another thing is to broaden your horizons. A huge part of learning music is listening to music and being able to have someone who can constantly point you towards new places to listen to music and to enjoy can be truly life-changing. One more big one is modeling in person. There's a huge difference between when you see something on a screen and when you see it in person. I can't quantify it, but anyone who's experienced it knows it's true. There's a huge difference, and that honesty there too, making a mistake in person and then having that. Whereas on YouTube, they're going to edit out all the mistakes. Why would they put them on the video? That makes no sense. Here's the deal. Now that I may have convinced you that you may want a in-person teacher, how do you find this in-person teacher? Because as much good can happen from picking an in-person teacher over doing YouTube, that same amount of good can be destroyed and even be negative if you pick a crappy teacher. So a couple things to point out. The first is you should have questions to ask the teacher that are important to you. Like, what are your goals? If you don't know what your goals are, just don't even look for a teacher yet. Pick out goals first. Also, you should be able to see what that teacher has done. In my personal opinion, everyone has a different opinion on this, a teacher should have experienced something about what you want to get into. If you want to play in church, the teacher should have played in church. If you want to play in jazz clubs and get good at jazz, the teacher should have performed out in jazz. I am not a huge fan of the academic system where we create teachers that have no real world experience. They've only learned to educate. I don't think that's a good idea in the performance field. Finally, even if they're amazing, even if they know what they're talking about, if they make you feel like crap, you have no obligation to stick with them. You can go and find a different teacher. A teacher that's encouraging, that makes you excited about playing your instrument, is always going to be a better teacher than the one that's way better at their instrument but makes you feel like crap. I'm Robert Monroe. I hope this has encouraged you to maybe go out and look for an in-person teacher. And hey, keep supplementing with YouTube videos. It's going to help me out. It's going to help you out. Like, subscribe, follow. Thanks so much. See you next time.